But it's been about 10 years since you started as a luthier, and now your guitars are considered at par with among the best in the world, right? Where do you see most of your orders coming from in terms of geography, and how is word getting around to these people?
Currently, I would say about 70% of my orders come in from the West. Yeah,
Okay,
between North America and Europe
all right,
are big markets for me, and a little bit in China as well, but mostly North America and Europe. The remaining 30% are domestic,
okay,
and there's a bunch of musicians here. The thing is, like, people have been, I think, looking for high-end instruments in India for a long time.
right,
They haven't had access to a lot of high-end equipment over here because
right,
none of the stores keep anything that's not easy to sell, right?
okay,
So
that makes
the
sense.
minute
Yeah,
things get expensive, it's just a business
yeah,
model.
yeah,
So usually what ends up happening is someone's coming in from abroad. So it's like, oh, can my uncle carry a guitar down for
right,
me? Can my brother bring something down for me? And that's all right. But the challenge with that is you're buying something that you've never played, you've never tried, you've never really, you're going on just YouTube clips for the most
right,
part,
right,
right? Now, the idea behind setting up BigFoot here was to give musicians in India access to something that is at par, like you said, with pretty much anything else around the world, while giving them the security of knowing that if anything goes wrong, we're right here. We'll take
right,
care of that, take care of maintenance, take care of repairs, take care of whatever issues you may have,
right,
right? It's homegrown. I work a lot with domestic species of timber, so I like experimenting a lot with woods that are native to India, which
right,
have not been used on guitars in the past. So they're
right.
not traditionally known as stone woods, but they work phenomenally well.
Yes.
So there's that aspect of it as well. As for how people get to how I spread the word, it's largely word of mouth.
Okay.
It's the market for high-end acoustic guitars is fairly small in the sense that the community of buyers is
Okay.
there wherever they are in the world.
Right.
A lot of them know each other already.
Right.
Yeah. And so they've got a couple of forums where they'll discuss these things, or just one will go to the other's house and be like, you got to try this out.
Right.
This is really cool, blah, blah, blah. So word gets around in that way. The
Okay.
other thing that helps is in normal years, 2020 being an
Sure.
exception, I do a lot of guitar shows.
Right.
So there are boutique handcrafted guitar shows that take place
Right.
around the world. So I go and take my instruments there and showcase them so people can get their hands on one, which is
Okay.
something that's difficult for them to do mostly because I'm based in India and
Right.
they're really far off. So instead of buying blind, they get a chance to come and try out and compare the guitars with a number of other builders who are also showcasing at the
Right.
same place.
Okay.
And these are, guys at the top of their game. So it's a good place uh, to meet new potential clients. It's a good
Right.
place to also meet builders
Okay.
and, bounce off ideas of each other and see what they're doing, what's new in the world. It's a great environment to be in because it helps
Right.
me grow as well, and it also helps the clients. So it's a win-win the way I look at
Right.
it.
That makes sense. Makes sense. Now, I want
Yeah.
to come back to the whole building process, right? Can you tell us about the different steps and the techniques involved in making a guitar? What are some of the skill sets that you sort of need to know, and what do you do on your own, and what are the kind of things that you can sort of get another person to do, right? When you can hire someone or outsource it.
Well, long story short
Short
is
story.
you you can you can do every single step yourself.
Okay.
I do my work myself. I work alone. I don't have
All right.
anyone else in the
Wow.
workshop,
Okay.
and a lot of luthiers operate that way.
Right.
I used to have apprentices who would help out with some of the rough dimensioning of the timber and a lot of sanding.
Okay.
Building a guitar involves a ridiculous amount of sanding. So
All right.
tasks like those, they get pretty boring pretty quickly.
Right.
So, but they're essential to the entire process.
Okay.
So those are things that my apprentice used to help me with. But for
Okay.
the last 2 years, I've been working alone, and I actually find it more peaceful this way because I'm in
Okay.
control of what the end product is, and
Right.
I'm doing things the way I want to do them.
Okay.
So that kind of helps. In terms of the number of steps, it's a lot of little steps, man. From
Sure.
I don't have pre-made parts, so pretty much everything from resawing logs of wood down right up till the time they become instruments a few years later.
Right.
I take care of all of it in-house.
Okay.
Right. So if you do need to know a fair amount of basic woodworking,
Okay.
but apart from machinery use and hand tool use, you need to have some serious attention to detail, and that's something that just comes with time.
Sure. Right.
Right. It's not something that will end up in your first 5 or 10 instruments that you make. And
Okay.
with each guitar that goes out, I'm always analyzing what could have been done differently. What do I like? What is it that I would like to play around with going forward, or what needs drastic changing?
Right.
So over the years, the number of drastic changes has reduced, and now it's just a lot of fine tuning.
A lot more accurate on the first go.
Yeah, because now I'm also a lot clearer in my head. Initially, it was just let's build a guitar.
Right.
Then it came into, all right, how do I make this sound good? How do I make it look good? How do I now introduce my signature into it? How do I distinguish it from the other million guitars that are out there?
Right.
So that when someone sees one of my guitars, he's like, okay, that's a BigFoot.
Okay.
Now,
you've said how building a guitar is not about getting one or two things right, but it's about getting a million pieces right. But if you had to put it down, what are the 1-2 things you absolutely cannot afford to get wrong when you're building a guitar? And feel free to be as abstract as you want.
That's tough, man. I really don't know if I can pinpoint it to a couple of things. It's just what tends to happen is, to give a little background, you can make a guitar-shaped object very easily.
Okay.
So to have something that looks like a neat acoustic guitar is really not complicated to do. Okay. To make that sound magical, to make it play beautifully, is, like I said earlier, it's every step of that process has to be just right, because your margin for error when you're building is extremely, extremely small.
Right.
You don't have the luxury of saying, oh, this top got glued on 3 millimeters to one side, or the neck came off 1 degree with a tilt of 1 degree.
Right.
It just throws everything out of whack.
Okay.
So, in terms of, if I'm going to be abstract about it, it's going to be, one is the voicing, for sure, which is what controls the sound of your instrument. And the second, I think, would be the playability. Okay. These two things are critical for a great sounding guitar.
Okay.
At the level at which I operate, I also have to take care of the aesthetics. That's the third thing, because nobody who's paying high dollar value for an instrument is going to pick up an instrument which has a ding on it, or has a scratch, or it's not been buffed properly. If it's not absolutely shiny, if there's one little speck somewhere, I will hear about it.
Right. The finish matters.
Yeah. So absolutely. So these three things together are going to decide, whether that instrument is going to have a certain value in the market or not.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.